my time on the House Park Show.
Oh man, I enjoy when you're here. So it's the feeling, as Terry Garr would say in Young Frankenstein, the feeling is mutual. So let's see, camera start up, and we will get to it in just 1 minute. Hi chat room, hit that like. We'll be joining you in just 1 second. Very exciting. Let's see the key. Jesus Christ. Have you seen the Dow this morning?
Yeah.
41,177.
Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, when the numbers don't lie, Biden's killing it, man.
He really is. And I was probably getting out over my skis saying we're going to hit 45 before the election, but I don't think that's the case now. I think if they drop the interest rate a little bit, even a quarter basis point, it's going to trigger fucking people are just going to blaze a trail like, oh, I can make more money in the stock market than I can, by a slight margin in a savings account. So bing, there it goes. Good Lord. So we'll talk about that in a second too. And then
Oh, I'm sure we got lots to talk about.
oh man. And I'm sure you've been watching the a bit of the RNC, if not, chunks of it. Hi, chat room. Yeah, we'll save it for the air because we'll be on in a minute anyway. So give me a second. I'm still just setting up, and they can hear us. So I'm just saying hi. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Let's just get going. I'm feeling it today. Hold on 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. There you are. 1 second. Let's see. Making sure that overall I look pretty good. Hello, everybody in Wyoming and elsewhere. Okay, that works. Hi, everybody. Hit that like while you're settling in, and I'm going to bring in... Oh, that didn't work. That ran to the wrong screen entirely. Hold on. This button. Oh, there we go. The Major is joining us. How are you, Major? Good to see you.
Doing great. Doing real good.
I wanted to, we were talking about this right before we came on the air, but I wanted to show you this in person. Check this out this morning. Now, there are a bunch, I'm sure there are maggots that are saying, this is because they think Trump's going to win. All right, well, that doesn't explain the last 2 years or 3 years, but whatever. But on top of that, fundraising on the Republican side has taken a gigantic shit, because of the quarter haul that they had in the second quarter. 140 million of it, which is the plurality of it, came from two donors. And that doesn't even include like the promise. I suppose they're adding the promise of Elon Musk money on top of this. He's spending every last dime he can to get elected the guy who hates electric cars. Makes no fucking sense. But whatever. I think he affects, again, this is just his belief in the puppet government concept, that it won't matter what Trump says. What he does on the other side will be tax breaks. But this is the stock market today. It hit 40K for the second time about a week and a half ago, maybe 9 days ago, before the pot shot. And like I said, if they lower the interest rate a quarter basis point anytime between now and the election, it's going to 45 if it doesn't already, right? And it'll be 46, gave you 45 on the stock market will be the story. Shit, it'll probably go to 46 right at the election, and they'll claim it was a giant plot to make it look good. But, yeah.
Well, you're talking about Elon Musk and all these, donations coming from one and two people.
Right.
This is one of the main reasons why we absolutely have got to support Joe Biden with another 4 years, and we got to start working to get overturning Citizens United, because that's why this is allowed. They've allowed big corporations to say that their money is free speech. And once again, how can you compete when Democrats focus on small dollar donors and Republicans focus on getting these big chunks from corporations and the filthy rich?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's true to some degree. We, since Citizens United, curiously enough, the billionaire squeaked by losing the popular vote. So the popular vote would point to, how are those dollars reaching the audience? How are those dollars convincing voters? And in both election cycles, the billionaire that was running, that allegedly had unlimited funds going to him, lost. And I would argue maybe in Senate races, unlimited money has more of an impact than the presidential national election or even House races, which are on a smaller level. But the reality for a lot of these guys has been that it hasn't helped. And I got to tell you, it's not going to help Trump this time around. All of Elon Musk's fucking money is not going to turn women towards Donald Trump based on policy. Isn't fucking happening. Rovember is coming. There is no turning back from that. They will paint a picture that it's something else. They will paint a picture that it's, that women are opening to, warming to his message. I don't give a fuck what Katie Tur says. That is not the case.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I don't see people switching to the Republican Party now. I don't see that. I don't think that the Republicans have given them any reason to.
Hold that thought. My overhead light's on. Hold on. Let's see 1 second. I got to figure out which light is on. Hold on. I think I got. Hold on. Is it this one? Hold on. It's bothering me. Okay. I think I got it. All right.
I think everybody that was going to vote for Donald Trump are going to vote for Donald Trump. But I don't see people basically saying, now today I'm definitely supporting Donald Trump, even when the assassination attempt happened. I know we're going to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But, at the end, when that happened, all of these jackaloons, these wannabe tough guys, these Kid Rock wannabe, they went on TikTok and they did their videos of, you messed up now, Democrats. You guys want a civil war. You're going to get a civil war. And then we found out that the guy was a Republican.
Right.
And actually, he tried to assassinate Donald Trump because Donald Trump wasn't, I guess, mean enough. Wasn't as cruel enough as that he wanted. So,
right.
I mean, nobody was switching sides because of that garbage. I think that the people that are going to vote for Donald Trump are going to vote for Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, Democrats outnumber the Republicans. We also have to understand that we've got a significant amount of black people that know that Joe Biden is better for them. I will tell you that for black people, and I wrote this down right before this, things were much better under Biden. They had the lowest unemployment rate in history for black people, and the poverty rate has also been the lowest under President Biden.
Right.
So they know. Women know that they're on the chopping block. Let me tell you something. They keep talking about this 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. They're talking about that. They're trying to set the stage They want the women's votes, but they're going to take away their votes the moment that they get in power.
Absolutely.
This is, you've got the elderly, you've got veterans, you've got the sick. I mean, there's just so many people in this country that absolutely have no business voting for Republicans. And I hate to say that the poorly educated are the base. That's Trump's base. And every day I believe that there's more and more people that are waking up. I really wish that the Democrats would get their heads out of their asses and figure this situation out in reference to Joe Biden, because if we're going to be riding with Biden, then let's ride with Biden.
Right.
I
I'll tell you what,
don't think
we are. There's no there. This is not happening. I wrote this earlier today on Shitter, but I was like, to all the Democrats that are circulating a letter about dropping Joe Biden, I'm going to circulate 2 letters, F and U. It's not happening. He said it. There is no democratic way of removing him. There is no reason to remove him. He is there for all this fucking talk about how the debate was devastating, right? That was the language. Devastating. Yeah. What does devastation mean? Devastation does not mean you started out in the margin of error and you're still in the margin of error. That's not devastating by any fucking definition. Also, to your point, everybody after the assassination attempt, the ear clipping shot that dude took, now it's over. This is devastating for Biden because he's just won it. That's it now. He's just automatically, people are going to vote for him because somebody shot at him. Like, it didn't work for George Wallace, and it didn't make fucking Larry Flint an elected official. So I don't know where the fuck, like, he ran for president too, from a wheelchair. So fuck off. So this idea that it's devastating or it's hurt Biden has not been borne out anywhere. It's not even that they can go with, oh my God, there is, a consistent show in the polls of a 10, 12, 15 point shift that is, outside the bullshit storyline we were told about the red wave also, which was, again, that was 10 points ahead. The Republicans were polling 10 points ahead of every Democratic seat that was up, and it didn't fucking happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's another thing, too. I wish people would understand this. You think that President Biden is too old. President Biden is absolutely killing it in this first term.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That's one of the reasons why we have a vice president.
Right.
If he gets to the point where he can't no longer fulfill the obligations of his position, then that's when the vice president steps in. And Kamala Harris is absolutely far better off than somebody like JD Vance.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is what it is. We stick with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden has done great.
I'll go even one further with the whole Kamala argument, which I supported that ticket from the very beginning. I said even before the primary, that's what the ticket was going to be. I was absolutely fucking right about it, and I think it's a good ticket. And I think she, as a presidential candidate with somebody else attached to her, creates the Pez dispenser of future administrations that everybody tries to build a groundswell towards. But first of all, a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris. If you like, we should put her at the top of the ticket and somebody else in the vice presidency. Okay, that happens automatically if anything happens to him and he has to step down, right? That just happens. She becomes the president, and then she appoints a temporary vice president, and then she has to run on that afterwards. Okay, that already will occur naturally. The only difference is in I guess the strategy of the alleged crowd of Dems that's like 6 fucking people that's supposed to, like Lawrence O'Donnell said, he told us at the Sexy Liberal Boston, and then he said it the next night, so I feel good about saying it openly. But one of the ways he was shitting on some of his colleagues on his own network and on others was that there was all this talk last week before the pot shot happened that there were going to be 50 Democrats are going to come out signing a letter together and tell Joe Biden to take a hike. You know how many actually came out? 1. Not 48, not 32, not 22, not 18, not 12. 1. Fucking 1. And none of the people who predicted those 50 have said, well, I guess I ate shit. That one's on me. I would totally fuck that up. They didn't come anywhere near that number. They just all pretended they never saw it. They never said it.
Yeah, you're spot on. And another thing, is that one of the reasons why Joe Biden is being such a successful president, the economy, he's doing phenomenal, the job's better than ever before, is that he spent 8 years as a vice president learning how to do the job.
Yeah.
Then we get Donald Trump that comes in there and has no concept, has no idea how to be a president. And
doesn't want to.
Shuts the government down, lives on a golf course. I mean, that's how it is. Now we got Joe Biden in the office, and it's like, he's showing us that in his first 8 years as a vice president, he knew what he learned the craft.
Yeah.
And I believe that, Kamala is in the same boat. She's learning from a master.
Yes.
And you can talk all you want. You can talk about his age all you want, but you look at his numbers. His numbers are absolutely phenomenal, doing better than anybody in the history of this country. Joe Biden is hitting home runs. Joe Biden he's brought jobs back from overseas. Joe Biden is standing with the working class. He's trying to defend the middle class in this country.
First fucking president on a picket line. First ever.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He stands with the working class. He's wanting to hold these filthy rich people accountable and make them pay their fair share. That's right. One of the reasons why they're acting the way that they are. They're funneling all this money to Donald Trump because they know they get a bunch more money and then they get to do what the hell they want, when the hell they want. Joe Biden is holding them accountable.
Here, as far as their accusations of him, being far left, it's it's ridiculous. But the fascinating part to me is like which rich people are lining up against him versus which rich people are actually for him. There's a plurality of CEOs and others who are supporting Biden. And they're the ones who know that when everybody else does well, they do well. And they build on that. Yeah. Service-oriented or quality product-oriented people are supporting Biden. The people that are supporting Trump are the assholes who want to cash out of the U.S. economy and move their money to the fucking Caymans or hide it someplace in crypto until the storm passes or buy themselves fucking, an Epstein Island. Those motherfuckers are all supporting Trump. And Elon Musk is a prime example of somebody like that. Peter Thiel is another example. And Peter Thiel is the dude behind JD Vance. There are two people who talked Trump into choosing JD Vance. Apparently, all the insiders, and believe what you want about how, the Democratic ones believe, if you will, all the kind of unknown people that are talking versus MAGA can't keep its fucking mouth shut. They're always bragging about even their dumb shit. So most of that's pretty believable. But apparently, Eric and Don Jr. went batshit at Trump because he was going to pick Doug Burgum. And they said, there's nothing in it for us. And they, both of them, specifically Don Jr., pushed JD Vance. Now, what's in it for them with JD Vance? Well, JD Vance, with all this hillbilly horse shit that he throws around, is like Mike Huckabee and his Bubba bullshit. They've been millionaires for decades around him. And he is a fucking venture capitalist. He went to Yale. He was there's nothing hillbilly about that motherfucker except the veneer. He's as much a hillbilly as Donald Trump is a successful businessman. They both cheated their way through that narrative. But the reason, Don and Eric want JD Vance is because they want access to Peter Thiel's fucking money.
Yeah, look, I'm going to tell you, I think that this will blow up in their face.
Agreed.
First and foremost, you've already seen Nick Fuentes, that white nationalist friggin' jackass that looks like the kid on the Munsters. This guy's already pissed off because guess what? JD Vance has a brown wife. JD Vance is married to a woman from India. And they've got a kid named Vivek. And, I mean, you can already tell the white nationalists are pissed about this.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Stu Peters. Same thing. Yeah. Like all these peripheral the BitChute tier Republicans. Because for those of you that don't know, there's BitChute, Rumble, YouTube. That's BitChute is the asshole Craigslist of the internet video world, right? Full of like, it's all like alien lizard people run the world to the, somebody reading sections of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion with Wagner playing behind them. It's fucked up, but that's where they all are. Stu Peters' show is mainly there. Nick Fuentes' show, mainly there, right? And so that crowd feeds the crowd above it. Rumble is basically the tip of the right-wing iceberg, and the rest of it, the part that sinks the fucking ship, is BitChute. Those guys are all flipping the fuck out about the fact that JD Vance, is Yale, and so, skull and bones and all that shit that they believe. Also that he was an anti-Trumper, and therefore they're going to kill Trump and put him in place. Let me tell you something, and we'll talk about the assassination, because I want to hear your attempt, because I want to hear your take on the security and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But specifically, there is a big conspiracy theory floating around the Stu Peters, Nick Fuentes world that the assassination attempt on Trump was to scare him into choosing JD Vance by the fucking powers that be, because he's an anti-Trumper and his wife's a Hindu, and this is DEI sneak around. This is like the woke underbelly Soros planned fucking. It's so gross. It's just, and it's everything you expect from them. But they actually believe that Vance's people are behind the dude who took a pot shot at Trump.
Well, I mean, good. I hope they talk that stuff up a lot. But I'm going to tell you,
they are.
I would tell you, we started making videos as soon as this stuff happened.
Yeah.
With JD Vance. And I mean, at the end of the day, you got a guy that calls Donald Trump America's Hitler, says he's a never Trumper. We're going to absolutely make them choke on that shit right there.
Yep.
We're doing videos, billboards. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that everybody sees how JD Vance really feels about Donald Trump. But when you dangle a position of power in front of him, he's more than willing to bend the knee and pucker the lips. And that's exactly what he's doing. JD Vance is an absolute shit stain. I don't give a shit what anybody says. That guy's garbage. I know they're going to try, but he was a Marine, Look, man, I know a lot of people out there that join the friggin' military to check a friggin' block, and then they're out doing their shit. I know a lot of people that do that shit. Like, you got the Lindsey Grahams of this world that daggone, go over to Iraq for 2 weeks and get a fucking Bronze Star because he's a senator. That's how these wannabe military.
Well, I would argue again. The biggest, I guess, bell that is rung by JD Vance joining the ticket is that somebody's got to draw attention to the fact that Trump did not sign into law the VA Choice Act of 2014. Trump lies about that all the fucking time. And JD Vance, before he was in fucking, in the Senate even, benefited from that. He was he got to use that health care that was given to him and extended to him because he's in, allegedly in rural Ohio, which is bullshit too, but whatever. That was extended to him specifically, by Obama and a Republican Kentucky congressperson, Hal Rogers, who drafted that fucking legislation, signed into law by Biden. Trump didn't have anything to do with it except for the standard review paperwork that comes with every bill that says, okay, we'll look at this again. If we can make minor changes, we will. But it was already laid out. This is, we are going to see, and let's talk a little bit about. We haven't spoken since the thing that happened on, at Trump's rally and all that shit. What was your initial reaction? What was, like afterwards? What were you seeing media wise? Because I'm sure we saw some overlap.
Yeah. I'll be honest. The first thing I did was condemn it. I mean, I despise Donald Trump, but this is not the way, we do. This is not how America operates. We have a system. We have, people vote. We allow people to exercise their voice, this was not the way. I was appalled. And then I'm watching all these people calling for civil war that were on the right,
Yeah.
and that was bothering me because, you don't give two shits about this country if the first thing you go to is civil war.
Right.
That bothers me. And then I started seeing all this stuff. I started seeing the videos of the people that were saying, man, I was telling the police here that there was a guy right over there on the building crawling up. And I started going, what the hell, man? I mean, but here's the thing. I'm like, right off the bat, fire
in this video,
your secret.
I'll show you how to get the community tab
One
on
second. There you go. There you go.
My thing was that, you know what? Fire the friggin' Secret Service. Because let me tell you something. How do you not clear a friggin' building? And here's the thing. How do you not have somebody on every single structure that is in the proximity of
I agree. Every single one.
To me, there was no excuse why that kid was able to climb on that building, and people were pointing him out when he was climbing up. And then to get to where he was, I'll tell you, there was so many things that I saw was wrong. I also thought when they let him stand up and shoot his fist in the air, let me tell you something. Look, there's some things that you have to just say you can't do. Yeah. You do not get to expose your face to the world after you've almost been killed. I mean, I just saw that those Secret Service agents did so many mistakes in that right there. But the fact that building, which was just, it wasn't that far away from the stand, the fact that building was not cleared tells me that everybody in the Secret Service needs to be fired because they're the ones that are responsible for the president's security or the past president's security. It's their job to make sure that security is there. And they allowed a huge gap in security. When we dig our foxholes, we have sectors of fire. And if you're over here, your sector of fire goes this way and this way. Then you got a guy in a foxhole over here. His sectors of fire actually interlock with yours.
There's overlap.
There's overlap. And the reason for that is because you've got to be able to get everything secured. The fact that a building was left unsecured tells me that these people are either incompetent, the leaders, the people who made the decisions when they got there are incompetent, or maybe they're part of it. I don't know. But I'll tell you, nobody that's got any damn common sense in security would have ever allowed that building to go uncleared.
Well, I spoke about this yesterday because somebody brought it up while we were, looking over the thing. Like people were talking about, like, how did they were pointing back and forth. He's here. Trump is here. How did they not clear this roof and whatever? Okay. The problem is that if you back out from this shot, there's like 6 or 7 roofs that were not covered that are within range. He was on the closest fucking roof. If he'd have been one roof back, we'd be talking about Trump's funeral right now. Like it was not crackerjack timing or divine intervention. This fucking dude wasn't that good a shot, knew it, and wanted to be as close as possible to try and make it happen. If he'd have been a better shot, been further back, he'd have killed him because they never would have seen him. Secondly, if you'll notice right above this blotch right here, that's a water tower. That water tower oversees the entire fucking stage, and no one was on it.
Who would not put somebody up on the water?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's a good thing. The kid loved guns, but he was not truly trained in marksmanship.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this is one of the things that we say. We say aim small, miss small.
Yeah.
If you're shooting at a target and you're shooting at a shirt, you may miss that target by 2 feet. But if you aim at a button, you may only miss by 2 inches. And a button, 2 inches, ain't going to matter.
Right.
It's a good thing that this guy was not trained in marksmanship.
Yes.
And I will tell you, to me, like you said, there's so many things that were done wrong. I mean, to have a water tower and not have somebody on it, to have buildings on structures that were adjacent to the field and not have somebody on every single one of those.
Right.
You are absolutely failing miserably.
Well, here's the thing, and this is my main theory as to why that did not happen. More than anything else, is that Donald Trump handpicks his Secret Service detail, but with sycophants. And that's why even the day when he's walking into the the RNC, when he's walking in, you see his new team, and somebody was like drawing pictures around him, like, what do you notice? I'm like, and what they mean is there are no women. It's all dudes his same height who are in that crowd. But you tell you what I noticed was all of them weren't looking at the crowd. They were either looking at him or looking straight ahead. That's not your fucking job. Your job is to scan the crowd for anything out of the ordinary and any face you recognize. Because here's the thing. They train Secret Service people so that everybody hesitates. When you see somebody you've seen before, you automatically have a reaction. Whether you know, if you're scanning a crowd and you see one face and you've seen that person before, even if it was in a fucking mall 2 years ago, your brain will hesitate on that person. And they are trained to recognize that reflex in themselves and never doubt it. The idea is that you pan a face and you're like, well, I recognize that face. That's like, keep looking. Watch this dude. They'll pass it around. Who's that? Because it's the people that show up again and again and again at these things that end up being the dangerous ones. Look at Travis Bickle as an example in Taxi Driver, right? He's loitering in the fucking crowd before he's going to try his weird shit. So they know this. So your job, though, is to watch the fucking crowd, scan for faces you may recognize or anybody who looks out of the ordinary or looks particularly suspicious or any of that shit. Okay. None of them were doing that. All of them were just looking at his fucking back or his shoes or down to the ground or whatever. And it's the same problem that's here. He handpicks these motherfuckers, and they all think the gun nuts are on our side. That's why on his side, they think the GOP is safe because we got all the gun nuts. Well, that's why I don't need magnetometers at my fucking rally, right? Because they're not the people. Aren't here for me if they've got guns.
Yeah, I absolutely spot on. I actually wrote that down. They're not here to hurt me.
Right.
You know, let me tell you. And one of the first things they also said was, well, they gave that area to the police to cover. First off, no, it doesn't work like that. You don't get to delegate your authority to a subordinate entity. That doesn't work like that. No way does that ever work anywhere. Once again, if they delegated that structure to the police, then they are at fault and should be held accountable. But once again, like you said, one of the first things I said was how close was that guy to the area? And were there any friggin' metal detectors? Because we know that Donald Trump has that mentality that they're not here to hurt me. And oh, by the way, they were. A Republican, a very, very far, far, far right Republican who may literally have tried to assassinate you because he believed that you wasn't Republican enough.
Right.
Wow. I mean, look, I'm waiting for our apologies. I'm waiting for all these friggin' jackaloons that went on TikTok, Kid Rock, and all these other jackaloons. It was like, you done did it now. Where the Civil War's going to start. We're going to get you Democrats. Okay, well, now that you know it's a Republican, are you going to apologize? No, because you people don't.
And that's exactly the whole, like, with Trump sticking his fist out, which was dumb, by the way. I wouldn't want my president to stick his head up anywhere where he's visible if they've just taken out a shooter on the assumption there isn't another one because fucking magic. Again, it's the same problem. They made the same fucking mistake right after he almost lost his life because of that mistake, which is, we got him, and there's no more coming for him because, again, anybody who's got a gun in this crowd is on my side. Like, he believes this. Yeah. And the other thing is that he put his fist up, and they used it at the RNC. Like, he goes, fight, 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 or whatever. Like, motherfucker, you're running for office against our side, but you're talking about fighting your own. Who the fuck are you fighting? We didn't send that guy. And we have no interest. Midas Touch put it up, but there was also, like, you've seen this video floating around of Alex Jones and one of his, like, semi-co-hosts before the fucking, they started selling the studio for Hawk, talking about how Trump's an imperfect candidate, and if somebody knocked him off, it would create kind of the maggot version of Helter Skelter. Like, they would rise up, there'd be a civil war, everybody would be justified in having basically a purge. They could get rid of all these Democratic Republicans and maybe even a couple of Supreme Court justices, and then insert that into, their people in and go, now we don't have to deal with Trump. We can get our perfect candidates in there, and we'll have the sympathy and the fear vote because Democrats will be afraid to go to the fucking voting booths because they know we're coming to get them. Like, this sounds like the kind of people who would inspire a guy like that to take a shot at Trump.
Yeah.
That's exactly the advice he would be following.
Yeah, they literally, how can, Donald Trump is running for the presidency. He's not telling anybody the things that he wants to do. He's not telling everybody the things that he wants to accomplish. Now, Joe Biden just released his first 100 days in his second presidency, and it is absolutely amazing and wonderful things. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Donald Trump is running on pure hate. Donald Trump is running on, like, literally trying to promote a civil war in this country. And once again, that should tell everybody why he deserves to never be nowhere near another seat of power as long as he lives. We've got to continue working with, we got to continue speaking the truth, because at the end of the day, like I said, I don't think there's not one single person that was a Democrat that chose to support Donald Trump after this shooting. And now that we know that the shooter was a Republican, there's no reason why anybody on the Democratic side. Before that shooting, earlier that day, a poll come out that showed Biden was up by 2 points against Donald Trump. So now look, I'm sure that it's fluctuated over the last couple of days, but it should already even out, because once again, we know it's not the Democrats. Joe Biden is going to continue doing amazing things as the president of the United States. And I think that he is going to absolutely, I think he can win. I think he can win. And I don't see Donald Trump doing anything other than spewing violence.
Well, the irony, and this is, you're talking about a family in the Trump family that went bankrupt 6 times and bankrupt a fucking casino. And these are the same, one of the reasons why Trump has 1,500 that we know of, LLCs, singularly that he is the designated signee on, is because the kids have been told over the years, bring me deals where we can make money that don't cost us anything, and I will just sign off on it. And so over the years, they brought in all kinds of stupid shit. I mean, all the Trump water and all that shit, like, part of that is Trump being dumb, but part of that is Don and Eric specifically going out deal hunting and going, man, I talked to this guy who said that they make money off of water just by putting their name on it. So let's do that. And they do, and it fails and move on. It doesn't cost them anything. And then they write it off as a tax thing. Okay, so these are the same fucking people who brought you Trump steaks and Trump water and Trump airlines and Trump casino Trump and all that kind of stuff. And Trump vodka. And they're, and Trump, best friend of Jeffrey Epstein for 2.5 fucking decades. The same people are telling you that made the decision for JD Vance. Told their dad, like, we think this is the guy. And if you think they're magically going to make a good decision after years of being fuck-ups, I got news for you. It ain't happening. JD Vance is a double down on his anti-abortion shit. Right about the time they were trying to do cleanup. They were trying to walk away from the Roe v. Wade stuff. They were trying to hide behind a nationwide abortion ban. And they could have brought somebody on who was a moderator on it, or seen as somebody who was, like namby-pamby about it, so they could lay that talking point off on them while Trump continues to dog whistle about eliminating women's rights permanently. Did they do that? No. They brought in somebody even fucking worse than Trump.
Nothing surprises me. The fact that people like Don Jr. and them can come out and act like they want the nation to literally mourn the attempts on their father, when right after, Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked with a hammer. What was Don Jr.'s first thing? He put up a post that had a pair of underwear and a hammer and said, "I'm ready for my Halloween costume." Yeah. Don't come out here now that somebody tried to take a pop shot at your father, from your side, by the way, and try to act like, I think everybody needs to just put prayers and fuck you. Yeah. I don't give a shit about these people. They don't give a shit about us.
They can't even stop themselves mocking Paul Pelosi now. Yeah. Like, screw all the, dial it back or pretend you never said it. They're still doing it. If you bring it up in a chat room or something with Don Jr. or any of these fuckers, they'll double down on the same fucking thing. It's not happening. And the weird part is, and I covered this on we did the Lester Holt interview last night on my show, and because we watched it all the way through, and the both siderism was just like the fucking needle was pegging, because it was, I have to say, and maybe it's just me and my viewers and watching that. That's always a possibility. But it seemed so over the top, especially knowing what we know about the shooter and knowing what we know about how the Trump family has responded to political violence against other people, that it just seemed like, even like Biden at one point has this like, what the fuck are you talking about moment? And it was the most natural reaction I've seen from him in 4 fucking years. Like, what? What is up with you guys?
Yeah.
No, you can, but like bullseye was a bad choice of words, but it's a very normal one. Meanwhile, Trump's saying bloodbath, and we've got the party that fucking since Sarah Palin has been putting crosshairs on people. Fuck out of here.
Yep. This is the thing. Is that this is what really drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Is that we took a major hit because of the first 30 minutes of a debate where Joe Biden was still telling the truth.
Yeah.
But the thing is he got his numbers messed up. Instead of 15.6 million, he said 15,000 jobs. Yeah. And make no mistake about it, I was like screaming at the TV, get your numbers right.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is after the first 30 minutes, the following hour, he did phenomenal. He told the truth, said what needed to be said, let the people know what was going on. But Donald Trump lied. He did not tell one friggin' truth in that entire 90 minutes. He told a lie every 90 seconds from the beginning to the end of that. And it was like nobody said nothing about Donald Trump lying. And I love the fact that Joe Biden had, I think, Lester Holt and told him, why come you guys ain't being equal on this? And you're wrong. You never once called him out on his lies. I'm going to tell you something. There was a guy in Colorado, Colorado's District 4, that was doing the debate for the Republican Party, for the Republicans before the election for Lauren Boebert. And I'm going to tell you that this guy, I don't know who he was, but we need to get hold of him, and we need to make him the guy who does the daggone debates, because he absolutely checked Lauren Boebert every time she opened her raggedy mouth. I mean, I got it. She still won, but he really did. He held her ass to task. And we need people like that. I've been on Jake Tapper's show before. Mm-hmm. I could not believe that Jake Tapper sat there silent while all this stuff happened. I mean, how could we let people like this get away with this garbage?
Well, I know exactly the dude you're talking about. Is it Kyle Clark? I think it's the guy's name. Dude was, he's a local Colorado dude. Just killed it. It was great. Here's the interesting thing, and this is I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. When I hear numbers and I don't know the complete number, or I'm ballparking a number online or in my conversations, I intentionally go to the low side of it so that if I am corrected, it's actually better for my argument. I will automatically downplay that part of it. And the irony is that if you corrected, kind of like you did, Biden's numbers during the debate, they're always better. He didn't oversell his numbers and say 18 billion jobs, or 15 billion jobs. He said 15,000. So the correction is actually you created 15 million jobs, which is if they had equally fact-checked both sides of the argument, it would still be better for Joe Biden, even if they called out his mistakes or his incorrect statements. So absolutely. Yeah,
I tell you, I'm sure that Jake Tapper, and I forget the name of the woman.
Dana Bash.
I'm sure they've caught a lot of hell on this, but at the end of the day, the way I look at it, they deserve everything that they got. The fact that they didn't fact check, I never thought about what you just said. I never thought about them. I thought about them fact-checking Donald Trump because he lied. But I never thought about the fact that they should have said, excuse me, Mr. President, but actually it's not 15,000, but it's 15.6 million jobs.
I'd have been fine with it. I would have been totally fine if both of them had been equally fact-checked. Any number they said that was wrong, you correct them. Yeah. Cool. Because if they had, they would have had to say, actually, you created 15 million jobs, and and what you seem to be saying was 800,000 manufacturing jobs, which is why you were focusing on the hundreds of thousands as opposed to millions in that phrase. So, absolutely.
I will tell you something else that he recently did, and he's bringing back 11 automobile factories. And I'm going to tell you, that there's a documentary, and it's about these guys that do this stock car racing on the weekend.
Yeah,
and it takes place in Andersonville, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched this documentary probably 100 times. I love it. I think it's a great documentary. I like watching them get ready to, almost get into fist fights in the races. But the thing about it is every single one of these people in this town used to work in these factories in Andersonville. And Andersonville was literally on the top of the world at one time. I mean, we're talking 30, 40,000 people working in that factory. We got 20,000 working in that factory. This place was booming.
Yeah.
And now it's down to there's only maybe 8,000 jobs left. Everybody's gone. The house is all safe for sale. The houses are run down, falling in. And I'm thinking to myself, I pray that at least one of those 13 factories goes to Andersonville.
Yep.
To bring some of these cities back to life. They're going to be creating all the EV stuff, the tractor trailer, the batteries, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's creating jobs for people. And, I look at this and I say, when a person has a good job, I mean, that's what life is about, man. You work hard and you can put food on your table and you don't have to worry about, where your next paycheck is going to come from. Because the truth is that people up in Andersonville, that's what they've been worried about forever. I would love nothing more to see factories going actually.
Yeah.
He brought a chips factory. He brought a chips factory to Ohio.
Yeah.
It's going to create 20,000 jobs. And oh, by the way, just be honest, it's a red state. That is a red state that Joe Biden is, Donald Trump.
Almost single-handedly salvaging. Right. Donald Trump wanted to bring, if you recall with Ohio, Donald Trump wanted to bring keep I think a washing machine factory there. Right, that was the idea, the carrier plant that he was like, we're gonna expand on that and stuff. It went away, didn't happen, never fucking happened. And Biden's bringing the jobs of the future to this fucking place.
Yes,
even though they're shitting on him. Now, I have a theory about this that within 30 days of the election, what you're going to see is Biden barnstorming a bunch of these states, including Ohio, in front of these places that are having groundbreakings and that are having ribbon cuttings and shit like that. Thank you. It was an air conditioner factory. Thank you, guys. He's going to be in front of all these places going, yeah, this is because of our policies. Trump could have done this, but he didn't. Yeah. Wonder why.
Donald Trump literally told California to rake your friggin' daggone forest. Donald Trump did not do. There's people. Do you know that there's still infrastructure in friggin' Puerto Rico that is not operational from the hurricane? Yes. There are still people there that are having issues with electricity because of that. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump never gave two shits, didn't do nothing for Puerto Rico after they had that situation. So,
and Rand Paul has run interference against helping them ever since.
Yes, absolute garbage. I despise. I wish that guy would get drunk and go over his neighbor's house again.
This is, again, there's a Rand Paul streak, and it's funny that he's not speaking at the RNC, and I think it's because he's part of the Whisper campaign, not the Shout campaign. But there is this weird, like, hyper-libertarian, borderline sovereign citizen, fuck the U.S. government, horseshoe overlap with the hyper-left that we see, that Rand Paul and his dad kind of represented. Now, Ron Paul's we now know his entire grassroots thing was AstroTurf, and it was paid for by Russian money, like just so fucking on the nose. And Rand Paul himself is hell-bent on making sure that people hate the U.S. government because it can't get things done, because he is the person running interference to stop it from getting things done. Not because it doesn't function, not because every person doesn't deserve and have a vote, but because he artificially, because of the structure of the Senate and the Senate rules, can run interference on this kind of shit and be a block against this, which is entirely the Marjorie Taylor Greene legislative agenda. It is effectively how they are double teaming the American people, which is have the Supreme Court revisit old law that you don't like, say that's up to the Congress, and then make sure you have people in the Congress who will shut it down so that it never gets solved, because that's their two-tier approach.
I sit here and I'm always like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
The fact that people like Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene can get away with the things that they do. There should be I understand now that we see that we've got a serious problem with the Supreme Court and how we've got 6 members of the Supreme Court that are bought and paid for by billionaires, and they're doing their bidding for billionaires. They're doing their voting for billionaires. And I'm like, there's no reason why we should allow these people to get away with this when they're caught. Clarence Thomas is caught, but because there's nothing out there that can control Supreme Court justices, he gets away with it.
Oh, there is.
This guy. Do you think that he did? Go ahead.
There is the vote.
But that's the problem. Is that Supreme Court justices until now they've gotten away with everything. Now we need to. And Joe Biden is part of one of his first things in his 100 days is going to be to create a code of ethics for the Supreme Court and deal with these people. But the way I look at it, Clarence Thomas is criminal. Clarence Thomas, first of all, we have a Supreme Court justice in the highest court of the land that flew to Moscow and then took a helicopter ride to Vladimir Putin's hometown. Do you think he went to Vladimir Putin's hometown to try the borscht?
Right.
Is that what it's called? Stew? No. Yeah. He went there, and I guarantee you, he had face-to-face.
He had a good talking to.
Dictator. He had a talking to with the dictator of our number one adversary. That right there alone should be enough to say, clean out your fucking desk.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You're lucky we're not putting you in fucking prison for this shit. That's treason is what he's doing. They get away with this bullshit.
Well, because they ride on the honor and respectability of the people that came before them. And the interesting thing is, for years, Clarence Thomas was always viewed as this kind of like Scalia sidecar, that he was there to just kind of do a what he said to whatever Scalia wrote, right? We now know that they were not only fellow travelers on a legislative level, that if anything, Clarence Thomas was being financed to be Scalia's sidecar, specifically put in there not only by the president that wanted him in there, George H.W. Bush, but by his handlers outside it that were saying, like, from now on you do this, and when Scalia left, honestly, we're only catching him now because he doesn't have Scalia as cover. Because when he writes this shit and puts these briefs out, they look hinky when he's not just saying what he said to Scalia. Because Scalia was either better at hiding it or a true believer about what he was doing. And Scalia would have never gone for the Ukraine war, pushback like the rest of the right has done. Scalia would always be a hawk. No matter, I don't like the dude at all, but he would have been a hawk about American security. That was sort of his raison d'etre. We now know that Clarence Thomas could have arguably been rope-a-doping his arguments with Scalia until such time as he had some sort of seniority as a younger man to kind of take over and push it the way they want him to push it. Like, it's I will tell you this.
I will tell you this. I believe wholeheartedly that one of the reasons why Eileen Cannon has been the way that she's been is because I believe she's thinking that she's going to be one of the next ones that Donald Trump would put on the Supreme Court. I mean, it's the highest court in the land, and once again, she's not qualified to be in the position that she's in. She's got like 2 court cases. That's it. I mean, we've got people that have been elevated to judicial appointments that have never tried a case. They've never tried a case.
That's right. And
it's absolutely amazing. But once again, I mean, I think that's why she did what she did, is because she's hoping that she gets on that. She gets to be on that.
I agree to some degree. At the very least, that she expects to have a federal judgeship legacy that eventually moves her up. If she doesn't make it to the Supreme Court, she gets a lifetime appointment to a federal bench that is, higher up and has more power over legislation on a statewide level or on a, in a district. Legina in the chat is saying Joe has the power to change things quickly. Let me tell you something. No, he does not. One of the things that I push back on, and I wish people would understand, is what I call the stroke of the pen fallacy. The stroke of the pen fallacy has been used against Democrats for a long fucking time to say that all Biden has to do is sign this and it fixes this problem. No, it doesn't. Even in the case of DACA, which was a temporary fix, DACA people have been on the fucking chopping block because of Trump, both last time and this time, because it was done with with an executive order. Whenever you do something with an executive order or using just the directive of funding, which is to the extent of what the president has as far as flexibility, that's the maximum he has. It can immediately be undone. And when you talk about major changes or things that genuinely protect a lot of people, you have to understand that can be undone and the rug is fucking pulled out from under them in a worse way. Think of it, if you'd have done Don't Ask, Don't Tell on a, or open service, if you'd done open service as an executive order, all these people would come out of the closet, admit that they were there, and then the next president says nope and kicks them all out. Everybody would fucking lose everything. The executive orders have a very limited scope, and they have to be things that are either functional to the direction of the administration in the short term, with the hope that you will eventually be able to get legislation in place that holds it for real in the case of DACA, or in areas where you have to write them to direct the effective, like the soft funding for things. Like, we have left over this amount of funding, so I direct that our focus should be in the DOJ or in immigration or whatever on these problems. You can do that with executive orders, but the next president, whoever the fuck it is, can undo it. And you do not put people's rights, especially women's rights right now, in an executive order, and that's your fucking solution, because the JD Vances of the world will absolutely use the fact that women were open about where they're traveling and open about where they could get abortion care and stuff to attack those places and jail people, women and their doctors across the country. All you're doing is outing people so that they end up in jail later. Fuck that noise. No. Well, it puts too much.
Let me say that, everybody needs to continue diving into Project 2025.
Yes.
We need to be spreading Project 2025. I don't give a shit if you got to write PR0JECT. If that's what you got to write, because they are trying to silence Project 2025.
They're trying to hide it.
They're trying to. We can't allow that to happen. Project 2025 is quite damning. It's damning for elderly people. It's damning for veterans. It's damning for everybody. It's damning for freaking anybody of color in this country. Make no mistake about it. You may be lily white, but what if you're married to a person that is of another culture? If it's an interracial marriage, let me tell you something. They're already talking about putting interracial marriage on the states. Let the states decide. If you think that every single interracial marriage in Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, Louisiana, if you think that those wouldn't be friggin' completely eradicated on the spot, you're not paying attention.
Oh, and they're not even going to have to pass it as a law. What they'll do is what they've done, with women's rights, is they'll kick it up to the Supreme Court of that state and say that there was no right. Anti-miscegenation laws had no right to have anything to do with us, and so all those marriage licenses are now null and void. And you can start from scratch. If you guys want, people, you want gay marriage or you want interracial marriage, you'll have to pass a law to do it. Which is how, by the way, they've attacked abortion rights. And it is happening in some of the states. Unfortunately, it's going to blow up in their faces because it's going to drive voters to the polls this fall, and that's going to screw with their control of the House. Especially, there's a shit ton of right-wing House seats that they're like, these are totally safe seats. They're going to be fucked because abortion is on the ballot.
If you are a woman and you are okay with you being in the crosshairs of these jackaloons, you're part of the problem. That's the thing about these damn Karens. They don't realize that they're going to lose their friggin' rights. When you've got people that are literally, and one of the guys that was one of the writers of the Project 2025, he's saying now that maybe there should be a wage gap between men and women. He's also the guy that was handing out $5 bills to homeless people and laughing when they got in trouble because of it. But at the end of the day, women, you are on the friggin' chopping block.
They're already there. I would argue they are on the operating table right now, which is, I think, an apt version, because they are already cut open. Women are already because of Donald Trump and because of, quite frankly, voters on our side of the aisle that sat out 2016. Again, we can put all the fucking pressure on the right wing we want or whatever, but there's a myriad of reasons why they believe what they believe and they will be driven to the border because I don't give a fuck about anything else, but people are coming across the border and they're going to kill us or whatever. That's their thing. And it may be stupid, but they're going to ignore everything else. So they're not even hypocrites about it. They just don't give a fuck. But it was our side that knows better that handed the presidency to Donald Trump via the Electoral College in 3 states by 75,000 votes, which was largely, it can absolutely statistically be related to people, progressives, not voting for president, voting everywhere else, but not voting president because fuck Hillary Clinton. And what that gave us, their own misogyny, that internalized misogyny or that externalized misogyny or whatever the fuck it was for that person, got us the Supreme Court that gave us the end of Roe v. Wade. Okay, that's what caused it. That's what did it. It didn't happen in the last year. It didn't happen, in the last couple of months. It didn't even happen when they fucking signed the order. That fate was sealed in 2016 in the election. Yes, Hillary won the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College because of 75,000 votes spread over 3 states that gave Donald Trump the Electoral College. And that number should have been eclipsed by the number of people who give a fuck about women's rights.
Yeah, I tell you, I hate the makeup of the Electoral College. Hillary Clinton actually won by 300,000 votes and ended up losing because of the Electoral College. And
3 million. 3 million.
The reason why there's a North Dakota and a South Dakota is because it gave them an opportunity to have more people in Washington, D.C. as a voice that basically leans their way.
Why don't we have a northern, central, and southern California at that point? You want to talk about volume of fucking people and land mass, right? I'll tell you why. Because they want everybody in California to have 2 senators and that's it. While 2 states that have a lower population than Santa Monica, California combined have 4 fucking senators.
California has more people than Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, all combined. Right. That's a fact. I mean, you're right, and that's another reason why they don't want to give statehood to friggin' Washington D.C. because they know that Washington D.C.
or Puerto Rico. And by the way, the odd part is, and this is true of this kind of blows a hole in their whole bullshit. And Phil will be joining us in a minute. I see him in the background over there, but I don't see his camera yet, so he should be popping in a minute from Kyiv. And we don't know what power's like there and the stuff that he's having to deal with, bless his heart. Crazy shit going on. And I'm sure there's... Kyiv? Yeah, he's in Kyiv. Yeah, he's in Kyiv right now.
Smokes.
Yeah. And he's been, the last 3 times he's been on the show, he's been on aux power, using a battery box on his floor to run shit. So it's some heavy duty shit. Phil, we don't see it yet, but I see your account there maybe. So hopefully you'll pop up in a second or what have you. But there is going to be in a bunch of across this country. Rovember is a real thing. That vote is happening. And it is not going to show up in the traditional voter polling, none of that stuff. Right now, what they're doing is they're coin flipping 50-50 on groups of registered voters and the shit like that, and not accounting for the Taylor Swift effect, not accounting for the Rovember effect at all. So they're in for a rude awakening. My problem with them not incorporating that is that it gives the Republicans a story to tell themselves, like the polls were showing us winning and then we lost, therefore it was stolen, therefore, and that's the scariest part. That's the frightening part of all this, is that the more they buy into this inevitability of Trump bullshit, which is bullshit, the more they sell that, the more it gives these assholes ammo to say it was stolen from them. They're going to say it anyways, but they'll have, a tale they can tell each other. Now, they did the same thing in 2020, and that turned out to be bullshit too. And the vast majority of people who showed up, even at Trump's little gathering, his little gaggle in Washington, did not go to the Capitol. 95% of these fuckers went, where are they going? I'm going to go fucking to Kramer Books and have breakfast. And that's the reality of a lot of even his most significant voters. Is that you or is that Phil in the background? Phil, can we hear you? Are you there? Just checking. I see, like I said, I see him pop up in our little guest thing, but I can't see him yet. So
I see his box thing there.
Yeah, but he's
not. One thing I'd like to say before we take off. Everybody knows that I'm turnleftpac.org.
Yes.
Everybody, if you can, please go to turnleftpac.org and donate, because we're going to start putting up billboards of JD Vance basically calling Donald Trump America's Hitler.
Right.
And we're gonna force feed him that. We have a billboard fund, but you can also go and you can also buy yourself some Jackaloon shirts, and you can get yourself some Turn Left Pack stuff, folks. At the end of the day, nobody gets to sit this one out. You need to go to the polls and vote for your daughters. Vote for your daughter's freedom. When we have people talking about wanting to do away with or challenge the 19th Amendment, that means they're wanting to take away a woman's voice. When we've got people that are saying that we were better when women were not able to exercise their rights, you are on the chopping block. Your children are on the chopping block. If you want to give your children a world that is absolutely just, abhorrent. I mean, the things that they're talking about that they want to do are not good for America. It's not at all. It's damning to America. It will be let me tell you something. The moment that Donald Trump wins the presidential election, he immediately cuts ties with Ukraine. And even though Ukraine is
Taiwan.
kicking the even though Ukraine is kicking the shit out of Russia, a big reason why they're kicking the shit out of Russia is because of the support that NATO is giving them.
Yes.
The moment that ends, Russia will overtake Ukraine. And when they overtake Ukraine, they're going to go straight into Moldova. They're going to go into Romania. They're going to go into Poland. They're going to hit Serbia, Bulgaria. You can look at the map. And I'm going to tell you that that does not end. It does not end until American troops go over there and have to stop it. But then it's going to be much more dangerous, and the loss of life is going to be astronomical.
Yeah.
So if that's what you want to go, and let me tell you something, they will absolutely send your sons and daughters to friggin' go and fight their wars. Make no mistake about it. If you look at what they're trying to do to education in this country, folks, let me tell you something. They want your kids to go through a friggin' military entrance exam when they're in high school, while their kids go to private schools and don't have to do that. Because at the end of the day, they want your kids working for their kids, or they want your kids fighting the battles that their friggin' bratty ass kids start. We cannot allow Donald Trump to get back into office, because if he does, the sovereign nation of Ukraine will be absolutely destroyed. And we cannot allow that to happen. That will completely turn Europe up on its ear. And I'm telling you, it will cost millions upon millions of people shedding blood to put a stop to this shit. If you just vote for one reason, vote to friggin' make sure we can continue supporting Ukraine.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Major. Greatly appreciate you, brother. Next time we'll talk about we'll talk about how many weeks Steve Bannon's been in jail, and how many and whether his Chinese billionaire friend Guo and Guai is going to be his cellmate or not.
I can't believe he ain't been shanked yet. Man, come on.
Well, who can say he hasn't? It's so very strange. I like it. Yeah. And again, would he notice? That's the weird part. But anyways, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
As always, hey, brother, hey, you be safe down there in Ukraine, man. Hey, that's awesome.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, there we go. Cheers. There he goes. Now, I'm going to pop Phil in here 1 second, if I may, and I think that I can. There we go. Cool. And 3, 2, 1. Pow. There we go. Hi, welcome, Philip Bittner, joining us live from the On the Edge studios, his new podcast in Kyiv, in Ukraine right now. Lots of news to talk about. You and I have not spoken since one of Trump's own took a shot at him.
Trying to position myself here. There we go.
No, it looks good.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Not since one of Trump's own took a pot shot at him for God knows what reason. We don't know yet. All we know is the guy was a registered Republican and his dad was an absolute maggot. And so, and these are, this is MAGA on MAGA crime insofar as we know. So this is, overall it's been fascinating. I'm curious, what's the take over there?
Concern. I saw a lot of people talking about, there should be, ironically enough, Ukraine, there should be no political violence.
Right.
A lot of statements about that, ironically.
Well, agreed. One of them would not be like Russia attacking Ukraine, for fuck's sake. I agree. I think I can see why they would be sensitive about that.
Well, there has been political violence in Ukraine in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the poisoning of the former president, for example, done by Russia,
right?
But still, in essence, a violent attack. So it's not unfamiliar territory for them, but they're concerned to see the model that they really are trying to emulate, because they want to be more like an American democracy than they want to be a European democracy.
Right.
In many ways. Not exclusively, but kind of a hybrid. But they look to us for an example. Mm-hmm. And so it's distressing for them. But then also, concern about, will this bolster Trump's presidential bid? Because they don't want him in. They don't want him back in, obviously. And then, the announcement of Vance as the VP is deeply disturbing here, because Vance is outspoken in his, we got to abandon Ukraine. We just got to give it up to the Russians. And the thing that made me turn, not the only thing, but one of the things that made me turn sour on Vance months and months ago, sometime this year, I think it was at the G20, I want to say. It wasn't. It was Davos. He was in Davos. He came over for the economic forum in Davos, and Zelensky was there.
Right.
And he was meeting every congressional delegation had an opportunity to go talk to President Zelensky. And Vance very publicly said, no, I'm not going to go do that because, and this just blew me away. He said, I don't think I could learn anything new.
Well, that's true, though.
No,
I mean, talk about hiding a lie with the truth.
Sure, but bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit. Fuck you, JD Vance.
Yeah.
You didn't go to that meeting with Zelensky because you didn't have the balls to look him in the eyes as you chucked him under the bus.
Yeah.
All right. All these Russian talking points that he comes out with, and he says, "Oh, I don't want to go talk to President Zelensky because there's nothing new for me to learn." One, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off with that shit. Of course, there's more stuff for you to understand. You haven't got the remotest clue as to what's happening here.
Right.
And secondly, again, just don't bullshit me. Don't gaslight me. You're not going because you don't have the balls. You don't have the testicular fortitude to at least be a man. If you're gonna stick
if that was true, he wouldn't beat Trump's running mate right now. You know what I mean?
Of course he wouldn't.
Again,
but that's got people here really concerned. Is Vance more than the shooting? I think the shooting was a bad example of oh my God, what is this democracy that we want to emulate becoming?
Yeah.
The Vance announcement is like, oh shit, if he gets back in, we're fucked.
Right. Well,
so it's been crazy over here since we last spoke. The electricity situation has gotten far worse, and we are going through a major heat wave. All of this right now that I have, like all the lights and everything that I have in the studio right now, are running on battery powers. These battery banks, the power banks that I've got. And not everybody is lucky enough to have those. So they say the heat's going to break tomorrow, which would be great. Because we're at like 105. It's like 105 degrees here.
Right.
With no AC No, nothing. No defense against it. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. It's swelteringly hot. And everything kind of grounds to a halt. The other thing, today is the 10-year anniversary of the downing of the MH17, the Malaysian airline flight that was flying over Donbass. Mm-hmm. It was shot down by a Russian anti-aircraft missile system, killing 298 people. Mm-hmm. The Dutch investigation into it proved that it was a Russian anti-aircraft missile, something that you don't go down to the local five and dime and pick up. So where did the Donbass separatists get their hands on a Buk missile system that would shoot down MH17? Mm-hmm. It's another example, another fine example of Russia's crimes. So we marked that today.
Right.
What else is going on? Is there something you want to bring up? You want to talk about?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things. By the way, there's sort of breaking news right now that Xi Jinping has had a stroke, and that's all over.
I saw.
Yeah, Chinese social media. Yeah, and the reason I saw it when it came up was because there's also this report, and this is true. And again, it's hard to tell with stuff around Xi Jinping and whether you'll get a real answer for a while. But the head of the Kim Il-sung Military College in North Korea was visiting Moscow and drowned in a pool yesterday, in a swimming pool. He drowned yesterday. So
DPRK, or is this Chinese?
No, the DPRK, the actual
this is
North Korean
representative of Kim Il-sung.
It's
DPRK.
Yeah, exactly. So I was looking at the news on that, and then the secondary Asia news came up because of Xi Jinping, which you don't know. But this dude is definitely dead. He definitely died there. This isn't. There's no question that state media in North Korea hasn't said anything yet, but the Russian media has said it, and they're pretty open about it. Sounds like a warning.
Russian media.
Right.
I mean, maybe.
And then the NATO.
It could just be something as it could be something as mundane as he got really wasted,
drunk and drowned, right? Which in and of itself is still bad. I would like to say,
Well, they have a really awful culture when it comes to drinking and
Moscow, safety,
so.
Right? The other piece of news is, of course, that I want to say it was the 60 Minutes show that they have over there, Channel 1 or whatever, where they put up a map of NATO capitals with nukes headed towards them again.
Yep.
This week as a threat. There's also a giant fire burning in Moscow right now. The Center for the Digitalization of Education is on fire. Let's see if I can find the. Here you go. Here's footage of it. There you go. That's just a government building for the digitalization of education, by the way, which just reeks of fucking Russian propaganda ministry name.
Yeah, kind of Soviet.
Totally. That's it. It's on fire right now. And the weird part is when it's a drone or something, obviously, it sounds like a bot farm is what Chad's saying. You're absolutely right. It's obviously when there's drones flying over and shit like that, that's not surprising, right? You almost expect this is one of the places, if that were the case, where they would actually hit, they would try to do this. On the other hand, though, this isn't one of those cases. Insofar as we know, this was not hit by a bot, or a drone or anything. This is just simply shitty Russian, like them blowing up their own shit.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, or
it's
just
infrastructure.
Crap.
It could be. I don't know what exactly it is, frankly, because it could be a bot farm that was targeted by Ukrainians.
Right.
So we don't know what caused this, obviously, but it could be again, just like the DPRK guy could be just simply he got way too drunk with his Russian buddies and collapsed in a pool.
Yeah,
and drowned.
How do you know?
This fire could just be. That the infrastructure is breaking down so badly, and they don't have the money to put back into infrastructure, and they don't have emergency services because all those guys, are being shipped off to the front. So look, things are not the Russian stock market is tanking. All the rest, but look. Speaking of Russian media, before I forget, quickly, it is worth noting that when Vance was announced, there was celebration in Moscow, and I gotta say, anytime the Russians are celebrating some development in Russia, back in the States, it's bad news for us.
Yeah.
They have no goodwill towards the United States.
And no shame.
And no shame about it either. And they will, if America suffers, they will celebrate. So if you see them popping champagne corks over something that happened domestically in the United States, as happened, by the way, when Trump was elected, when there was this old crazy clown. Well, not a clown. He was Zhirinovsky. Do you remember Zhirinovsky?
No.
Vladimir Wolfovich Zhirinovsky.
Okay.
He was absolute nutbag. Very much like, he had the persona of an Alex Jones, or somebody just boisterous and loud and obnoxious, and he was popping champagne corks when Trump was elected. So that was an indication to me that we're in trouble. Anyhow, so they're celebrating Vance being the VP selection. I think they don't, as is usual for the Russians, they think they know us better than they do. They don't understand how just disastrous Vance is going to be for the ticket. So
yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's they view it as let's say they don't think it's going to help him win and all that stuff, which I don't think so either. I think Vance is a terrible choice for the general electorate and it's going to fuck with a lot of shit. It's just it's a bad mistake. And again, it is equally stupid as as every other decision Don and Eric have helped Trump make. That said, insofar as them making progress in total capture of the Republican Party, this would be seen as a good sign. Even if they lose the election, this is a sign that the old Republican, national security hawks are dead, and now we have a pro-Russian party in the United States. In the same way that they try to take over parties in Poland or Germany or anybody else in the EU, that this is the equivalent. This is the Marie Le Pening of the Republican Party. That they now know, okay, check that box, we got them all. We got the entire Republican, even the ones who aren't for us are cowed by us, and they're fucked.
Yeah. Or you take, for example, like that idiot David Sachs opening up the RNC.
Oh my God. He bombed like crazy, though.
On Ukraine.
Which was fascinating. He got booed when he
did,
which was super weird. That's it's kind of a good sign, but nobody could tell. Like, I don't even know if they knew why they were booing him.
Yeah. Lots of Americans support Ukraine, even in the MAGA crowd.
Yeah.
But a
plurality, a majority.
Because I've heard some talk within Ukrainian circles of them going, so Boris Johnson recently, within the last 72 hours or so, visited Trump.
Yes.
And Johnson put out a statement, I think just on social media, but anyhow, that, we talked about Ukraine and Trump promised to be a good friend to Ukraine. And so I believe him and I take him in his word and blah, 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 blah. Johnson's a pretty reprehensible human being. So I don't have a lot of faith in whatever he has to say. But I think there were Ukrainians who were clutching at that going, so, and there's talk of Trump being this kind of ego-driven president that he would not want to be seen to be weak to Vladimir Putin. So I think they're clutching at straws, though. I think that's Ukrainians hoping that it's not going to all be terrible, because they are kind of over here under the impression that it might be Trump getting back in. I tell them it's For the very same reasons that we've discussed many times. It ain't going to happen. Now, I got to say, I've had a little bit of a chipping away at that, because a lot of my reasoning for why he was never going to be back in the Oval was that he was going to be a convicted criminal, and he is indeed a convicted criminal. But as they chip away at all these court cases, it has given me pause for concern. But he's a terrible, awful candidate, and it's and as you say oftentimes, and I tend to agree with you, he's going to get worse. Yeah, he's going to get worse. He's going to deteriorate. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, since we haven't had a chance to do it. As you were at Sexually Liberal last Saturday, and then we haven't spoken since the assassination
attempt. Yeah,
somebody tried to
alleged
assassination attempt. Assassination attempt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely right. Having somebody try to kill you is a really powerful thing. It's a really,
especially when it's one of your own.
Well, yeah, certainly when it's one of your own. But I've been in combat several times, and I've thought that I was going to die 3 times when I was in combat. There were 3 specific incidents that happened where I thought, yeah, okay, and that changes you. You don't walk away from that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always, and I've seen and in myself as well, but I've seen it in others more than in myself, is that sometimes it doesn't land immediately.
Yes.
It takes a little bit of time.
I agree.
It's so, you defer, you pretend that it wasn't as severe as it was, you try to bargain, but then you realize, I was this close, to not being on this earth anymore. And Trump's ego that we see in public, so it's not like we're speculating. He openly has this bravado of, I'm never going to die. I'm immortal. I'm a golden god kind of thing. And all the rest, he has just had a very close brush with his own mortality.
Right.
And not only that, but somebody tried to kill him. It's not like, it's bad enough. You talk to people who've been in bad car accidents, and they have PTSD that comes up, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years later. Right.
I have,
well, that's one thing.
I have stuff in, that I've been through where I was like,
you live long enough. You have a couple of brushes. Yep. You have a couple brushes.
They're still with me.
And that, and that's one thing. But then to add to that, to know that somebody, an entity, not like, oh, I made it wrong. I lost control of the car. It was on a black ice, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's terrible and awful and scary, and I deal with the anxiety and the trauma of that.
Right.
But then add another layer to that. Somebody tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Somebody consciously tried to kill me.
Plotted and planned.
And he thinks that the world revolves around him, so it's not like he can escape that. I'm not going to psychoanalyze freaking Donald Trump, but as somebody who has gone through trauma and seen and been surrounded by trauma and seen trauma in human beings and how they deal with shit like this, when their mortality is really shoved right in their face.
Yep.
It's human nature. You don't just walk away from that.
No.
Well, I think you're right, Hal. I really do think he is. We have not seen whatever the effect of the assassination attempt. I don't think we've seen it yet. And his behavior's been a little bit weird on the dais, but I think that's just him being on the dais and kind of having to sit
He's
there.
Weird anyways.
Whatever.
But
weird anyways.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Okay, so insofar as his his belief about his own, infallibility and his imperviousness to the other concerns that other people have, and him being superhuman. Okay, that has been, much inflated by those around him and the Ronnie Johnsons / Jacksons of the world. And I personally don't think he buys it. And I think a couple of things, including COVID and a couple of his what might have been mini strokes where he had to go to Walter Reed and they pretended he had to have, half of his physical now and then half of it later and all that shit that happened when he was president. I think because he's an old man scared the fuck out of him. I think he had a health scare or two that made him kind of aware of stuff, but he was able to put it behind him because he's been healthy ever since, or he hasn't thought about it again. People will start smoking again after they get, their lung cancer is cleared. This is very different though. And again, if you're the kind of person who does some soul searching or looking into things, you may overtly and mistakenly assume your own culpability or a broader fear point from something like that happening instead of like one nutcase just wanted to off me because I'm #the president. But when it's your own person and it's somebody that your team cultivated in 2016, because of their love of guns and shit like that, I don't know how you can put those thoughts aside. And then on top of it, you physically, he was an inch away from being, an anecdote.
And this is a guy who's escaped. This is a guy who's escaped consequences for his actions.
Whole fucking
and has
life.
Never really, his whole fucking life. And that is a real consequence of your actions.
So the question is,
somebody with a rifle shooting at you.
That's right. So the question is, he's always been a paranoid asshole. That's why he doesn't use email. So on top of this, does his family think that there's nothing more to this story and that it all dies there? Or did they, because they surround themselves with the Alex Joneses of the fucking world and they have him on speed dial? Alex Jones has his fucking phone number, his direct dial phone number. He has Don Jr.'s direct number. He has Eric's fucking direct number. That's the circle you're in. Can you just jettison that paranoia after something like this, or does it start to dig in? And then on top of it, just the natural, what you're talking about, the PTSD of going through a near-death experience like that, never mind the retrospectively going back, this was one of my own, this is a registered Republican who came after me, can I really trust anybody? All the stuff that a thinking person would probably, if they had a paranoid spiral, would go into. Just the physical act of like, you almost died and you were almost dead and a brown trouser moment that he clearly had. This is a dude who is no longer happy with the spotlight he sought his entire time. And now I have had death threats. I have had specific death threats to my person with specific details. When I was on Queer as Folk, we were doing DVD signings. And there were repeated and specific acid in the face threats against myself, because I was the most outspoken and I did the most press. So I was the most known of the cast for that particularly. And so the FBI was involved. The Paramount and fucking Showtime had to be in contact with them. It was a real thing. And that was something that I thought about all the fucking time. And half of what I thought about when I was doing it was, if some fucker comes up and decides to do something to me because of what I stand for, I hope nobody else is around me when it happens. Like, that was a thought that came up to me. That if they open fire, Jesus Christ, I would feel terrible. I'm in a restaurant or something like that, and random people have to catch hell because someone has a disagreement with me. Like, the guilt of it. Imagine surviving that. Because you think about all these scenarios. Your brain can't not go through it. And especially a brain like mine. I vector all the time. And so in vectoring this, I was like, Jesus Christ, what if they came after me and they hurt somebody else? Most of the time when somebody shoots up a place, they don't get to the boss who fired them. They get the fucking secretary, right? They walk into the place and they're taken out before they ever get to the person they want. What a fucking terrifying and horrible thing, which is exactly what happened with Trump. It's exactly what happened. They missed him, but they killed this fucking firefighter, and it was protecting his family, and two of his other people were injured horribly. They're going to have scars the rest of their fucking life. They're going to have back problems and liver damage and all kinds of shit like that forever because of that shit, right? I don't know how that doesn't grind on you, right? So
Well, any normal human being, but the fucker hasn't even called the family yet, right? Unless that's changed.
Also, does he not call them again? This kind of points to that. Did he not call them because he is because he's called a bunch of other people when they've had family members killed, and about other shit. But it's him. This is another step where you have to admit this happened because of you.
You have to confront it,
right? You have to be aware of it.
Confront it.
Yes,
right. You have to confront it. You have to make that phone call, and so this is the other thing. See, of all the things that happened over the weekend, I can dismiss a lot of it as to will it affect the race or will it not affect the race. There's one thing that troubles me, and it's that fucking picture. That bothers me.
Yeah.
Well, it how it is. There is messaging and imagery and all the rest of it. I'm not freaking out. I'm just saying that fucking picture is going to be everywhere. Flip side of that same coin, though, he's going to be seeing that picture everywhere as well, and it's going to be constantly reminding him.
Okay, it's a great example. So, Mr. Super Businessman, in using the picture of his mugshot, he has to pay the Fulton County DA's office money for the rights to use that picture. So for those in the cheap seats, Donald Trump is financing both sides of the Georgia case. He is financing, he is paying for his defense, well, his followers are, and he is paying for the prosecution because he is literally, that's part of the money that's going to go to financing his prosecution. That's fucking hilarious. Now, the picture you're talking about. The picture you're talking about of him with his fist in the air. Right.
The flag. And
all the people around him have a totally different view of that picture than he does. Because in that, the example I would always give is my buddy Doug Pinnick, who's in King's X. I fucking love that band, and I love their music, and I have since high school, and he's one of my dearest friends in the world. But there are albums of his that he can't really listen to because of what the band was going through at the time. And because of management and touring, and it was hell and all this stuff. And to me, these are frozen, encapsulated moments of this music that are just gorgeous and fantastic and just an example of talent. And I see it as wonderful, right? I can't not. Even when he tells me these things, these songs still light me up. But he has a difficult time playing those songs on stage sometimes. Or even looking at the fucking album cover. And these aren't pictures of him with blood on his face because somebody tried to kill him. This is just the normal trauma of someone trying to fuck your music career into a cocked hat, right? Now, imagine yourself, Donald Trump. His sons, like Don Jr. says, the first thing he said to him was, "You're the biggest badass I've ever seen," or something like that. Which sounds like something a sycophant follower would say, not a son. The first thing I would say, no matter what it is, "How you doing? I love you. I'm so glad you're still with us." Something personal. And again, we don't even know if that's fucking true. I don't even know if he really actually spoke to him on the phone or they just waited. It's just so stupid. You can't trust any of it. But the fact that he said it like that is almost worse for Trump. You know what I mean? Because you don't feel like a badass in that moment. I'm certain of it. Nobody does after something like that. You're full of adrenaline.
No.
You were almost killed. You were lucky. You lucked the fuck out. And one of your followers didn't. They're fucking dead.
Yeah. Not that he has the empathy to care about that, but I mean, it's you're the biggest badass I've ever. Shut the
right. I know, it's fucking embarrassing.
It is. But I mean, his pathology. I don't know. I don't know where or how it will manifest, but it's going to. You don't go through something like that and not be, and especially again, an ego like his. He was nearly off this planet. He shuffled off the mortal coil.
I'll tell you. And here's the other story that relates to that kind of thing. So I have a relative of a relative of a relative. So I'm not going to out anybody that who's still alive. But this person was one of the nastiest, most racist, awful people. It was a woman that I've ever known personally. Like, it was family through marriage a couple of times over, and didn't really see her very often. And just shitty kind of, like, my girlfriend was Asian at the time, and there was like, she's like, why don't you get her to give you a car? It was like this weird thing about Japan, like just nasty, awful woman, old, but not elderly. She was driving their car with the elderly grandparents in the car and another person. She was driving the car, and they were in a car accident, and it was arguably her fault. And one of the injuries she sustained was it took all the skin off her arm up to this point, and then they had to re-stitch it back down and recover her arm. And it was sort of an embarrassing wound for her, right? And she just had it wrapped up for a good long while. Okay. They did a full checkup on her, though. She's totally fine, other than this injury. And the idea was, okay, we're going to have to keep track. You're going to have to come back in, and we'll do another checkup on you in a little bit. And she was horribly, like, she didn't get better after that. She didn't have a moment of, like, I could have died, they could have died, we were hit by another car, etc. I should appreciate life and that's around me. She just got nastier afterwards. And she got angrier after that thing. And it wasn't like somebody broadside her, she was hit by a drunk driver. It was basically her fucking fault. It was two people at fault in 2-car collision. She went in for a checkup. She was fine when she went in after the injury, and her insides were full of cancer. They told her she had 3 months to live. She died 3 months to the day. It was one of the most extraordinary acts of almost like, psychopathological illness. Like it's like she pulled a fucking ripcord. Like, I'm out of here, right? Just bitter and awful. And now I'm embarrassed and bitter and awful. So fuck you people. And right. Okay. So the question is, does Trump have a moment of like, life is so precious and I've been an asshole, I need to learn my lesson? Or does he double down on his scumbaggery because he's embarrassed and angry, which will lead to heightened stress chemicals in your body, and therefore more illness and the inability to heal normal wounds, and an expansion of whatever issues you have. If you have bad legs and bad knees and bad hips and bad back and bad heart and whatever, it gets worse in those situations because you're overwhelmed with stress hormones. I don't know why anybody would believe this motherfucker is going to find Jesus.
No, I don't see him swinging open the bay doors and going, it's still Christmas, I have more time.
Right.
Here,
yes.
boy, go get the largest goose.
Exactly.
I have now had my moment, just like Ebenezer Scrooge. Fuck off. He doesn't have the strength of character for that. Not that Scrooge did either, but you get my point. He is not suddenly going to have, I'm going to change all my ways, and I realize I've been awful.
And for the record, I don't want him. I'm not calling this for him. I am not calling for this to happen to him. I have no interest in this happening to him. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying there is a way, way higher chance of something like that happening than him fucking becoming, this is the new Trump now.
Hey, for his own well-being, I wouldn't chagrin him suddenly having a transformative moment in his life at whatever, 78? 77, 78?
77,
No. I mean, he's
78,
go for it, buddy. Take what little time you have left on this globe and try and be a better human being.
Not fucking happening. No.
Not happening. So, I think he's going to crash and burn. I think he's really going to lose his shit at some point. I mean, there's going to be more stuff.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to be. If it's going to be some reveal of stuff that we didn't know and information that we didn't know previously, or whether or not he's going to have some other, God let's hope it's non-violent, but some other campaign kerfuffle or misstep, and it's just gonna spiral. This guy can't. He doesn't have the strength of character.
This idea that he's like Katie Tur has been pushing this idea that there's a new Trump or whatever. They were showing him at the fucking convention, and he's sitting there. And I got to tell you, unless you've got wishful thinking about him, and you can't look at him objectively, and there's no love lost between me and that man, but you can look at him and go, this is not a guy who thinks he won because he deserved to, or he beat a situation because he was powerful. This is an old man who had a horrible experience where, oops, I lost Phil for a second. Hopefully he'll come back. Oh, okay. Fingers crossed he'll come back. We'll hold for you, Phil. But what I was saying to you guys was, this is not a man where, okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, pop back in. Give me a second. There he is. There you go. Welcome back. You dropped out for a split second.
Yeah. See, this hello, welcome to Ukraine. I had no power. Everything's on batteries. Right. So I'm actually doing this with a 4G mobile hotspot.
Right.
One of the little mobile hotspot things.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we live. Anyhow, so don't.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that looking at him, I got it. She was saying like he looks pensive and introspective, and I'm like, he looks like Pat Robertson fucked a circus peanut. And if you look at Pat Robertson near the end, especially with his like kind of weird, doddering old face, he looked like a fucking empty scrotum the last year of his life. And everybody was like, "He looks so vibrant." You're like, "No, the fuck, he doesn't. Like, what's wrong with you?"
And the other thing is the emotion, the quick emotional changes.
Yes,
that you could see on his face. It was like, okay, that is not normal for Trump.
That's right.
Katie Tur was right about that. Wearing that quick emotional
mask,
because he always has the kind of bluster and the kind of il duce kind of bluster and whatever what have you. But it doesn't, he's in a mode and it doesn't really change.
Yeah.
Unless his mental illnesses come to the fore, or his dementia or whatever it is he's got.
Right.
But I mean, her pointing that out was like, no, that's a man who is riding an emotional wave.
Yeah.
And he's switching back and forth. He's on a board on the biggest emotional wave he's ever been, and he is cutting back and cutting this way and cutting that way.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, he's at the whim of the ocean and the wave that he's riding. Not, he's not in control of it.
No, and that's
I don't think.
Some folks are saying he was like swollen and that he looked all fucking bagged out. The reality is he looked like somebody who'd been through a trauma, and he looked exhausted, and he looked embarrassed, which is something, again, he has no shame, never has, but he can be embarrassed. And that's why he talks about Afghanistan as being embarrassing. It's because it's the only thing he can fucking process. He's incapable of feeling shame for what he's done, but he can be embarrassed because people can see your flaws. That's scary. And that's a fear-based emotion that he is susceptible to.
In his family, if you listen to Mary Trump and growing up in that family, to be vulnerable is the worst thing you can possibly do. To be seen as weak or vulnerable is because you're always thinking that somebody is going to come and take advantage of your vulnerability. And he has been shown to be vulnerable because
thank you, Jerry.
He damn near got killed.
Yeah.
So, this is not good for his psyche. So
no. And the weird thing is
I think it's going to get worse.
I don't know if you're this way, Phil. I have a feeling you're, you and I share a couple of traits as far as our humanity goes. And one of them is that if I'm on the edge of tears or emotional exhaustion, or I've been through something, the worst thing somebody can do is be nice to me, because if I'm trying not to cry, that's what will send me over the edge. That's what will that's the breaking point. So much so that as an actor, I use that as an emotional trick to get myself to cry in some scenes. Is that I will set something up that, I'm alone in this, and then and I'll attach a word that the person is going to say to a feeling of not being alone anymore, and that will trigger the emotion. And I can cry on a dime in those situations because of that. It's such a strong natural proclivity, right? Trump, I have a feeling, has never experienced that before, right? I don't know that he, and he expects everybody to be sycophants, right? Somebody's like, you cry easily, Hal, to be honest. No, I don't. I cry deeply and genuinely. I just am not afraid to talk about things that will make me cry. So it's not easy. It's just true. So anyways, but in this case, you could tell. He started crying when he was walking off stage, when they were carrying him off. When he went like this, you could see he was starting, the adrenaline was hitting, and he was starting to cry. And I guarantee he was hiding his face and stuff
also,
all the way to the hospital.
This is a guy who has spent his entire life trying to hide his true emotions, trying to control his emotions, not to show his emotions because that's a vulnerability.
And making fun of other people, crying Adam Kinzinger, crying Chuck Schumer. Anybody who shows emotions is weak and stuff.
How weak.
That shit rolls downhill.
Look, and again, I have seen victims of trauma and PTSD for 30 years. I've been a war correspondent. You don't think I've been surrounded by trauma and PTSD? It's without getting a degree in psychology, I think I could probably
spot it.
Teach a course, and I can certainly spot it. And one of the worst things that you can do, and I can immediately bring to mind, a dozen or more current or former colleagues, frankly, who desperately tried to keep a trauma or an incident locked away, to push it down for one reason or another. And when you do that, and this is pop psychology 101, it's nothing that it takes great insight, but I've seen it, especially when it comes to life and death situations and PTSD and trauma. That dude is a ticking time bomb, man. He is, and I don't know if it's going to happen publicly. I don't know if we're going to see it publicly, or if it's going to be behind the scenes, and the Republicans will have to, and the family will have to rally around and try and hide it from the public. But that dude is not gonna. He's not gonna hold it together, man.
Nope.
I really don't think he will, because it's horrifying when you almost die, when somebody tries to kill you. It's devastating.
And that's true of everybody.
I live with it to this day. I live with it. Every incident that I have had is now part of the fiber of my being, and I've come to terms with it. And look, when this fucking war is over, this is my last war. I'm never going to another war. I never want to be shot at again. I never want to have the feeling of somebody trying to kill me. I don't want to be surrounded by trauma. I don't want to be surrounded by PTSD. I'm going to have to do some work when this is over on myself, and I'm aware of that. I need some work.
Because if something pops off, you will have the desire to go there and cover it and bring attention to it.
There's that too, and then there's just stuff that's
that's there as well.
I carry with me. It's just there. It's part of my identity now. It's baked in.
Yep.
This motherfucker has never gone through anything like what he went through this weekend, and he's not going to handle it well.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a nut that's going to start to crack.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue I'm
not gleeful about it, but
I think that nut has started to crack since he won the election the first time, because he did not expect to win and he was scared to death of it. Now he's afraid to lose because it means going to jail. The irony that he would have been safe in jail this weekend if he hadn't fought all this shit is hilarious. He would have been and believe me, the kind of prison they'll send him to has a golf course. But the issue that he will have around him is that he has raised family members everywhere that do not that he trained to not be emotionally supportive the same way he experienced, because
yes.
I mean, he famously punched Don Jr. for not wearing a suit to a baseball game. When they went, he showed up, he was like wearing a baseball shirt and he wanted to go to it. He picked him up at the dorm and he slapped him across the face in front of all of his friends for not wearing a suit because they're going to this thing and it's part of the brand or some shit. Like that, if that's what you're surrounded by, where do you turn with these kind of emotions? He's not going to have a shrink. And here's the worst part. He's got grandkids. He turned
to his wife.
Jesus Christ.
Melania's not going to be there for him.
No, she had an AI statement that they put out. He's going to, I'll tell you what he will have around him. And this is going to shock the shit out of him emotionally. Is grandkids who don't know that he's an asshole. Who don't know that he was Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for years and that he very well may have sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl. They don't know this about him. They just know he's grandpa. He just popped up. Right. That doesn't matter. And so they're going to smile at him and look up to him and laugh. And if he's sad, they're going to put, like little kids do, they're in the modern era, their hand on his shoulder and go, it's going to be okay. Because that's what kids do, and it's fucking beautiful because kids are different now. And it's going to tear him to pieces. He doesn't know how to handle it. It's bad.
Yeah, no, he's not. Hey, before as we kind of wrap up to a close in this hour here, did you get the video that I sent to Andrea from our latest episode of On the Edge with Kira Rudick?
Let's see. I will. I have not seen it yet, but I
wanted to make a point of this. Oh, it's a pity because you got to show it to Steph.
Okay,
you got to get it to Steph, or you got to get it to other. I had an interview. The last. It's been a crazy few days. I know. I don't expect a lot of people to have watched the latest episode of On the Edge, but the last episode that I did, that came out last Sunday, was with the head of an opposition parliamentary party here called Golis or Holus, which is voice or vote, and it's an opposition party. It's very pro-European, very liberal, but is often in opposition, obviously, to the more conservative parties, or even to Zelensky's party, Servant of the People. And it's a great interview. It's one of the best episodes I've done so far.
Great.
But here's why I want to bring your attention, because I clipped it up. I put it on my Twitter feed.
Okay.
If you go to my Twitter feed, Hal.
Yeah.
If you can, here I am directing.
Well,
you can take the producer out of the game, but you
can't take the game out of the producer, right? Yeah.
So here I am producing. Look, if you can get to my Twitter feed and pull this up, it's not far back. It's about a 7-second, maybe a little longer soundbite. This episode was really, really good on a lot of different topics. We talked a little bit about Trump and their concerns about Trump getting back in. But she tells me a story in this episode of the day of the full-scale invasion, February 24th, 2022. They are being seriously attacked. They are being bombed viciously here in the Capitol.
Right. I'm reposting it on my Twitter feed, and I will watch it afterwards. People
watch this soundbite.
Yeah.
This is something everybody should. If you don't want to watch the entire episode, if there's only one thing that we Americans can take from this, is that this is a Ukrainian parliamentarian. She tells me the story of February 24th, 2022, when Russian bombs are coming down on the Capitol. And they get as many deputies together as they possibly can. Out of something like 400, they get like 300 and change. They go to the parliament, the Rada here, the Verkhovna Rada, which is their parliament. And the guards say, this could be a target. We'll give you 10 minutes, but no more. And they go in there, and they are furiously pushing their vote, casting their ballot to initiate martial law, which will enable them to fight against an existential threat. Vladimir Putin and the Russians are an existential threat, and they are singing the fucking Ukrainian national anthem as they are desperately making this vote. And they are no longer from this party or that party or the other party. they're Ukrainians, and they agree on that day. On that day, they say to one another, until we defeat, or until we get, until this war is over, whatever it will be, we vow that we may have disagreements behind closed doors, but we are all Team Ukraine.
Yeah.
Fucking DNC, get your shit together.
Right.
Okay? We are facing an existential threat. Now is not the time for internal squabbling. You want to do it behind closed doors? That's fine. Knock yourself out. But take a lesson from a Ukrainian who has had her own home destroyed, blown up by Russian bombs, who has suffered for 2.5 years plus. And these people are still standing strong because they recognize that the enemy that they face is far greater than any internal dispute they have within Ukraine. This is a message for the DNC. This is the message for anybody who is still out there bullshitting around what it is that we face. We need to circle the wagons, put away our disputes. We'll deal with it after the election.
Right.
But unless we beat this existential threat, just as the Russians are an existential threat to...
Whoops. And we would lose him right at that moment. He'll be back in a second. Give it a sec. Oh. Right at that. It's so funny. He's absolutely right. And he'll pop back in. It's the nature of where they are, and the nature that he's running off of secondary power in this. And I want to remind everybody, hit that like, share the show, etc., etc., etc. I will be posting these shows, especially the interview-heavy shows, as part of the podcast. And after I'm done with the show today. Also, I was going to show this, and we'll see if he pops back in. This is the current number of personnel killed or wounded in Ukraine of Russians. 562,510. Think about that for a second. 562,000 on its way to 563. Round up to 563. That's where it's going. 1,110 in the last night. There's Phil. Welcome back. Oh, I can't hear you now. Hold on. Well, I don't know why you're on that page, but go ahead. Yeah, we can't. Oh, wait, hold on. You're popping back in. There you go. Now you can hear you. You're good.
Now you can hear me. Okay. Look, I would love it if everybody goes and watches the entire interview. It's a good one. It's a really good one. But if there's one thing you take away from these people who are fighting against, like, somebody who wants to absolutely destroy everything of who they are, which we maybe should, be thinking about on our side of the equation as well. Take a lesson from the Ukrainians. Now's not the time for internal struggles.
Right.
Now is the time to defeat an existential threat, and then we can go back to politics as usual. But this, I couldn't believe when she said it, and she tells me the story, and it's a deeply moving story. And then, as I was editing it, I went, "Oh my God, this is them teaching us."
Yeah.
This new democracy where people are dying every day to defend this fledgling new democracy. We maybe should remember. Yeah. We should maybe take a lesson.
The cost that was already paid. So much less the one that will have to be paid if we don't do it. I want to remind everybody that On the Edge is, you got a new episode this Sunday.
I'll have a new episode this Sunday. We're still working out which guest we'll have, but we'll we are going to have a show on Sunday.
Great.
So if you just grab the bite, Hal, and spread it far and wide.
I will.
And everybody who's listening to me now, this is a lesson from Ukraine to America. This is we need to listen to this. This is them saying, until
that's right.
Let's beat our common enemy, which is a foe that will destroy us. And then we can go back to, arguing amongst ourselves.
Right.
She was amazing. She was. It's easily one of the best episodes.
Great.
And I really want to get that. I want to get that message out as far and wide as it can, because it's so relevant to us. These guys sitting in a parliament room, under bombs. Russian bombs are falling, and they're desperately trying to come together to defend themselves. And it's inspiring. It's deeply inspiring, and it's a lesson we need to take on board. So yeah, get that out there, folks.
Will do. Thank you so much, Phil, and we'll see you on Saturday. I'm home this Saturday, so
hopefully
we should be
from here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Same here. I will be here on Saturday, so we should have a regularly fluid show. The following weekend, I'm in Atlanta, and I'm in New York the weekend after that for Sexy Liberal, and I will be getting in the night before so we can have regular shows there as well. Thank God. So, but thanks so much. Stay safe, and that's what everybody in the chat room is also saying to you. Thanks so much, and I will see you later on.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Cheers. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, hit that like, give us a thumbs up if you could. And I want to thank everybody who helped out today. Still Alive said Trump's reaction to the assassination attempt, I guess, kind of reminds me of Circes in the movie 300 when Leonidas throws a javelin and knocks him, drawing blood in a moment where he realizes, wait, I'm not immortal, and that realization affects him. Yes, that's absolutely... although I would say that guy is big enough and young enough in the theory that it's a singular strike, kind of like the cut on Drago's cheek. But there's a depth of mortality that I think Trump is feeling for the first time that is even greater than that. But yes, excellent analogy. And Luis says that Adam Schiff is no longer a Dem, asking President Biden to drop out. F him. Love on the Edge and Philip on YouTube. Great. Thank you so much for that. And then, of course, Jerry said, Slava Ukraine. Thanks, Phil and Hal, for your work. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Arizona Sunshine as well for the super chat, and Barbara for the super chat. I will see you guys later on this afternoon. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And please don't fret. Please understand. I want you to have all your faculties. I want you to have I don't want stress to wear you down like it does the other side. We don't need to. It's not necessary. And I'm here to help alleviate some of that. And, if I can lift that weight a little bit, that's what I'll do. So we're good. I promise. You're going to be all right. But in terms of the Republicans...
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
I think their biggest fear is probably, at this point, the kidney. It's a lot.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
That is true. That is, you can't argue with that. That's just a reality. Yeah. So, love you guys. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I'll see you this afternoon. Hit the like and all that kind of, share the show, etc., etc.